My name is Enes and I'm from Turkey. And I have a question for both of you. If you think of the new generation of consumer and the new generation of media, and all the creative industry that is so combined with science and technology, what do you think, in which era, in which age of creativity are we in?
Did I understand that question? Sorry, I'm a bit thick. Which age, you're saying, just go again.
Which age, which era of creativity are we in?
Well, I think, I'm going to answer that in a completely different way, because I'm like a politician, isn't it? That's what they always do. Thank you for that question. That was very interesting. They come up with something completely different. I'm going to tell you something that I'm reading the most amazing book at the moment, and please, I think I should get bloody royalties on this because I'm recommending this book to everybody. It's called From Animals to Gods: The Making of Humankind. And I'll very quickly do this, and then maybe that kind of answers your question. In this book, he looks at how is it Homo sapiens, us, came to dominate. We are actually sapiens, by the way. We are the only species where there is no other version of us. Monkeys, cats, there are all lots of other versions. Nobody knows quite why that is. There was a moment when we made the leap. And the leap was we developed what they call fictive language, the ability to have ideas. Chimpanzees can talk. They can say, hi, watch out, lion, or look, banana. They cannot develop fictive language, myth-making. Because we could do that, because we created that, our brains created it. We could there live in larger and larger groups, because we could be bound together by myth. We didn't need to meet each other to understand and share a common story. This was so profound. It's what created community. Then it created villages, towns, cities. So, when you say to me, what age of creativity are we living in? We've always, and that's why storytelling is so crucial and fundamental to what we do. So when people get up and talk about storytelling, as though it's a good way of doing it, it is more fundamental than that. It is actually why we are all here. And if that isn't an answer to your question, it's still a very interesting book, and I really recommend you reading it.
Well, I think, hard to follow that, but I feel like, as I said on stage, I feel like I'm going to have two parts to that answer. I feel like we're in the time management. I feel like we're in the age where everyone is time pressed, so that we have to acknowledge the fact that we are competing for people's time, really, against everything. Someone putting a cat down their pants on YouTube, or someone telling a brand anthem story. There's all that. And also I think we're in the era of generosity. Storytelling is no longer has a start and finish to it, which it was. It used to be very neat, particularly in our industry. You would create something and you'd put it out there, and it would be, here's the start, here's the middle, here's the finish. Now we create things knowing that there's going to be multiple components to it, and we want it to be shared and take on a life of its own. So it's much more a collaborative, generous type of creativity, I think. And sometimes it's done well and sometimes it's done badly, but we try and think of things as, we create, and then when we put it out there, we curate, and let it go. So we don't put a finish to everything anymore. That's where I think creativity has an afterlife, whereas before it didn't. Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Jacques Meyer from Brazil. We see here a lot of work based on social, and that put the social in the middle of the creative and the creative jobs. But I don't mean the social as social media, but the social as, how advertising and brands can help people. What do you think about it? This is a trend, or this is only a way to win some awards?
Well, I think there's again multiple answers to that. I feel like there's definitely a cynical side to it, which is some people create things that are their only life is really here at Cannes, and that's to win awards. And I think there's other things that are amazing and worthy that have that go on and on and on, and they create something that is important. And I feel like you get both here. I mean, that's the festival, you see, it's a festival of extremes, right? That by the nature of it's open to everyone. You get some people that the brightest the star shines is here, and you have things that are important and amazing that go on. But I think every brand, you know, that's in sync with the real world. I think brands have to have contribute to community in some way. You know, you can't be a dominant brand now without having a social conscience. And I feel like it's important for them to demonstrate that. That's the era we live in now. You know, you have to be a contributor as much as a taker. Thank goodness. And that's why I love what's going on. But yeah, I mean, of course there's the cynical people who just create shit to win.
I think the other thing too is that, you know, lots of people kind of want there to be a one way of doing something. And I think we now live in a world where there are multiple ways of starting a conversation, you know, that can operate in so many different media, that this is why I think it's a very exciting time to be around. There's no right nor wrong. The only thing is it having an impact? Is it convincing people? Are they engaged by it? Do they actually associate with it? And actually, you know, the important thing we have to remember is this is fundamentally a kind of festival that tries to show creativity and commerce can work together to create something great. That's really what this is all about. You know, it's how creativity can help branding. That's it. It's commerce meets art meets commerce, and I think everything else is there are lots of ways of doing it. You know, and I get people who want me to say there's only this way, or I came from an era when there was sort of really only one way of doing it. I think the exciting thing today is there are multiple ways of starting. But are you doing it in a way which captures people's imagination? That's, you know, I always say the only space, the only place to operate, the only space you're trying to occupy is the space between somebody's ears. How you get in there is entirely up to you, and there are multiple ways of doing it. And there are lots of bullshit ways of doing it.
Hi, I'm Julia from Germany. I've got two questions. One is, how do you feel about this overwhelming presence of Google and all the other tech companies over here? And the second is, are you worried about the people using ad blockers on their computers? There are increasing numbers.
I mean, I think technology has always been a part of creativity, so it's great to see these people here. I think we'll learn that, you know, they have a huge contribution to make, but it's not the only contribution. I'm not worried about them because in the end, you know, I come from a side which is about having ideas, and that will always be fundamentally important. You know, technology is a means of delivery. That's all it is. And am I worried about people with ad blockers? Not at all. Actually, I'd like more people to have ad blockers because what they're doing is cutting out the crap, you know. And, you know, people always say, oh, you know, they assume that 40, 50 years ago, because I'm pretty old, as you can gather, that we all sat in front of a television set, glued to it, watching everything that came up. No. There's a little information for you. We didn't. We used to get up and have a conversation with somebody if there was something boring on. We blocked in our brain. We didn't need a bit of technology to block it. Our brain just blocked it. So, you know, that's been there forever. You know, I remember I was living in New York in '99 when TiVo got launched. And, you know, the New York Times ran a huge piece. It was like an 8-page feature on this is the end of advertising and TiVo they're going to turn it. And I'm sitting there thinking another bunch of idiots don't understand. If you do something interesting, people want to watch it. If you do say something interesting, people will listen to it. That's what we've got to get people to do. And that's what creativity helps you do.
Yeah, I just want to add to that because I really think, you know, TV blockers and all those things. I mean, it's such a slap in the face for our industry, but that we needed to have. You know, I feel like people want to block our stuff because we were bombarding them with crap. I mean, if someone takes a restraining order on somebody, it usually implies that that person is a creep and is doing something. Like, we exploited and took for granted the consumer, and we just tried to be stealth and bombard them with stuff. And you know what? If our stuff isn't good enough and they have to create technology to block us, then we need to get better as an industry. So I think it's actually better because it puts more onus on the creative people and the strategic people to step up and lead the industry again. I think the last, you know, 20 years or so, with some exceptions, you know, we haven't been led by creative, strategic, inspiring people. We've been led by bankers, you know, and I feel like there's nothing wrong with bankers, but at the end of the day, that, you know, the bankers and the linear people, you know, they make things possible, but it's the creative people that make the impossible, and I think that that's what we need more of. So, ad blockers, they make us better. Bring it on.
The other thing I'd like to add to that, and it's something I really feel very strongly about. I didn't come into this industry to kind of embed my message in a way which was going to trip people up or catch them out or have them not know this was an advertising message. Twitter and Facebook and all these things are kind of coming up with these ways of tricking people. Does a brand want to do that? Is that how you're going to build a brand? By tricking people? By getting them to sort of read something that they didn't know was an advertising message? Do you think that's great? I don't, personally. And I came into this industry because a whole generation came in when I came in who believed you could do great, inspiring work. You could do work that people admired, that people talked about, that people looked up to. And I think that's what great brands should be doing. And I think that's what great brands do. And I think this whole move today where people proudly say, wow, we've embedded this message they didn't know about, I think that's shit. Good. More ad blockers, the better.
I think it's worth also, we're going to ride on this question, but I feel like...
We're on a roll here.
No, the thing is, I'm not afraid of technology. As I said, when you can have technology complement what you're doing, so Facebook and, Google, fantastic. But I feel like the other sides of it where, things like pop-ups and pre-rolls, they make me so mad. Because basically what we're saying is, even before the thumbing starts, we're saying we are a speed hump for you to go over before you get to what you want. So we are nothing more than just an annoyance. No matter how good the ad is or how good, we put in a place where we know we've got you here, so we're going to force it down your throat. And I don't want to be in an industry that comes across like that. I want to be in an industry that people look to and feel like the power and greatness of what we do. And there is enough great work out there that shines a beacon on the strength of our industry. But there's enough lazy people out there that sort of bring us down as well.
Hi, Eduardo from Brazil here. Hi. I'd like to ask you guys, what do you think about the increasingly participation of artists and celebrities here in the festivals? What's your opinion?
Great. It says a lot about the industry. That it proves the point, as I said, that this is an industry that matters. Because you, as I said, follow the money, right? Because the brands now realise the power of creativity. As soon as the brands are here, the media company comes, and the celebrities come. Fine, bring it on. They can throw some parties that we might go to. They can say some industry, whatever. You know what I mean? I'm not anti-celebrities, but I think the thing is, there are two different types of celebrities now in advertising world. There are those that still operate in the old world where they stand in front of a camera or they think just by the fact that they are the celebrity that it adds value. And there are those that actually use their personality to do something more interesting with. So, I don't care. It makes the parties more interesting.
I think you've answered.
Hi, Loy from Oman. Some creatives, or many creatives, say there's nothing new under the sun, that every idea has been done. What is your answer to that?
Well, actually, I have just written a little book on creativity, not about advertising. And one of the things I do say in it is there is no such thing as originality. And there's a great quote about originality. Is originality is dependent upon the obscurity of your sources. What I believe is there's freshness. You come at an idea in a fresh way. I think it's arrogant to come up with an original idea. It's actually, if you think about it, it's a nonsense. Every idea is kind of influenced by something else. That's what we do. Ideas are influenced by other things around them. Every artist, every poet, every writer was creating stuff in kind of response to something else. The idea that there is originality is actually, if you think, it's like there is no such thing as nothing. When you say it's nothing, how can there be nothing? There is always something, my view is it's like that's one of the questions you get when you're chairing an award scheme and somebody says, well, we're looking for originality, and you go, oh shit, oh no, oh God, we'll be here forever. Somebody saying, I saw that in 1949 when they kind of, everything in a way has been done before, but we have new ways of telling that story, and I think that's brilliant. So freshness is the word I tend to use.
Yeah, I think we're in the business, not to overuse the word storytelling, but you're right. What does that say? There's 7 themes through life, redemption and all these sort of things. But I feel like it's how you tell it, right? Has anyone seen the film Aristocrats? It's about the joke. Yeah. It's basically Comedians.
Don't tell it. Don't tell.
I won't tell the joke.
Don't tell the joke, please.
But watch it because it sort of makes the point. There's one joke and they ask 30 comedians to embellish and tell the joke in their own style. And each one of them tells it in a ridiculously funny way. Even though I'm hearing the same joke over and over again, it makes you realise that's what we are. We're in the industry. You're right. You know, if you dig deep, the sort of the intentions and all that, it may be familiar, but how you frame it. You know, we're in the business of joining dots, right? And we all know that thing where you join dots in sequence, 1, 2, 3. You know, all we're doing is you just join them in a different sequence to make something slightly different. But you know, it's the telling and the wrapping paper that makes the difference.
Hi, I'm Rita Hegarty from Hungary, and I have a question regarding what can young creatives do, I mean under 30, to be successful?
What can young creatives under 30 do to be successful? Have great ideas, do great work. You know, I think the wonderful thing today is, and I say to creative, you know, you can pick up a camera, you can go out and shoot something, you can edit yourself, you can put an idea down. You know, I couldn't do that when I was coming into the industry. But, you know, I think there are sort of a dozen different ways of building a wonderful portfolio and putting it out there. I think it's a brilliant time to be a creative person. It's very competitive because lots of people are trying to do it. But what a wonderful opportunity you have today to do something, you know, and you know, adopt a cause and do some work for them and create something like that. Brilliant.
I mean, it's the best time to be under 30, right? Apart from the fact you can party longer. But I feel like, you know, when I started the industry, there was sort of like a chain, a ladder you'd have to climb. You know, you first came in the door, you would get the briefs for the brochures or the radio, or then you'd want to work your way up to the TV commercial. And I feel like now every single thing is an opportunity. You could do the smallest thing that is off the radar that becomes extraordinary. So I think being under 30 is no disadvantage. I feel like actually, I mean, the world is almost ruled by the under 30 now.
I mean, I say, you know, one of the things I think is fantastic about our industry is most organisations are like pyramids, aren't they? You know, where as you go up that pyramid, there are fewer and fewer people, and then you get the powerful person sitting at the top. You know, is it Rupert Murdoch of News International, or was it, you know, Steve Jobs of Apple? I think I try and explain to everybody who comes into our office and is in the creative department that we're like an inverted triangle. I'm at the bottom. And this young 22-year-old writer, art director, whatever, has come in. They can have an idea that could transform our business and a brand. And that's the power that they have. So my job is to recognize it and make sure it happens. So I think this is a very energizing industry to be in, especially if you're young, and especially if you understand that's the way it is. And that's very, very, I think, empowering.
And cynicism is something that you know, sometimes it impedes creativity. So you know, under 30, they haven't got the battle scars as much. So they still, as you know, I was talking earlier. Like my favourite word is potential, because you know they're still believing that anything is possible. And there's a confidence now with creativity. Another addition to that, what era of creativity we're in? It's a confident era. Like I feel like people believe they can almost do anything, whether they can. And then there's more and more supporters and technology that allows them to do that. So that's where I think.
Hi, my name is Anna Luisa from Italy. I would like to ask you what do you think about sustainable brand, and if you think that the future is for that brand that are able to invest in social and sustainable innovation. Thank you.
I think, again, that's where the world is moving. Definitely, I think brands do, as I said before, brands do have to contribute as much as take. And I feel like, you know, it's a different era now because a brand used to be able to say something, but its body language didn't match what it said. And now a brand's body language, their actions have to match what it's saying. So if a brand is pretending to be good or saying it's good and it's not doing that at a social community level. But, you know, again, do I want my beer to be, you know, educating kids? Maybe not, but you know they can, you know, but they can't be doing harm. But then there are other brands. It depends on which category. But I feel like that's the world we live in. People want to feel that they're contributing, and I think that you're seeing brands growing now because they actually show they don't want to just rule the category. They want to, you know, do more for greater good. So I think it's important.
I think I would answer this in another way as well. I think, you know, we talk about trying to create scenarios where there is win-win. we're somehow thinking about how everybody could win. You know, I was very disappointed when I gave a talk recently about the future of business, and when I researched the business books most business leaders admired, a huge proportion of them had The Art of War as their book of, you know, that they admired and they employed. And I thought this was seriously disappointing that they view business as war. You know, and even all the terminology we use about business, you know, it's a campaign, and we talk to the troops, and, you know, we talk about the competition and the opposition and how we're going to defeat them, and it's all, they're warlike words, and I think that's the thing that we really do have to change. And then, you know, sustainability after that is, you know, well, one person say sustainability is another person's kind of indulgence, isn't it? You know, I think the most, in many ways, the most disgraceful industry is the fashion industry, that encourages me to kind of go, I should throw away those jeans because they're not quite as tight as they were, and I should buy these ones because it's a new season. You know, advertising gets a lot of brickbats thrown at it. I mean, the fashion industry is the most cynical, wasteful, disgraceful industry, and it gets away with it scot-free. Nobody ever says, you know, hey, you know, blue is the new black, and black is the new grey, and grey is the new D. You know, who gives a fuck? You know, they're creating want, you know, far more than advertising ever did. You think about it.
Hello, I'm Vasiliki from Greece, and I'd like to ask you, what does it take to be the black sheep, and if you find it's worth it after all these years?
Well, what is it? Well, I mean, I think that we try to kind of have, as an agency, we try to have a philosophy. We try to have things that we believed in, and we wanted those things understood by everybody. I mean, I think one of the problems I have with advertising agencies is none of them are really brands. They're all things to all people, you know? And the big kind of holding companies are reducing the fact that they're brands. So, you know, are all these agencies they own any different? I'm not sure they are. So for us, it was very important to establish BBH as a brand. And brands have to have, you know, barriers to entry. You know, if you want to buy a Rolls Royce, I'm very sorry, you have to have about £250,000 in the bank, you know, and if you haven't got that, then don't come in, you know, or whatever it might be. And all brands have a point of a barrier to entry, and we created this thing about the black sheep because we felt that's what we wanted to be, and we thought it was a great way of thinking about a problem. When everybody's going in that direction, we'll go in this direction, because maybe that's where the solution lies, because we believe in the power of difference.
David, why did you sell your agency to an entertainment company instead of a communications holding company? And John, why did you sell the agency to a holding company?
Well, I only sold 49%, just remember that. That's the magic number, okay? So I still control the company. Or, you know, weird. But as I, you know, I was saying in my speech earlier, we are in the business of influence. That's what clients come to us for, ideas that create influence. And to just go to if I was going to sell to a bigger holding company that would just look for efficiencies in us as opposed to add value to us, that had no merit to me. But, you know, William Morris Endeavour, I mean, they are a massive player in the entertainment and sports industries, the biggest in the world, and their ambitions and their access far exceeds anybody, you know, in our industry. So if we can work with them and find the right times to collaborate and to actually, you know, it hasn't changed my day to day. It doesn't suddenly mean I want to just make TV shows and have celebrities in all our ads. But it allows us to sort of, you know, play in different circles where appropriate. I think it's worth saying that we're appropriate, you know. And if it adds 1% of influence to what we're trying to do and make something better, then that's a great move. You know what I mean? It's more than, I think that's the thing. Like, we want to do as much as we can with what we have. So why not get into bed with someone who's also not looking to be us? Like, they you know, they appreciate us for us. They don't pretend to have no advertising, so they're not in my shorts. And there's a sort of this middle ground we're trying to find. So, you know, it's our responsibility as an industry to try and push as many boundaries as we can. That's what moves us forward. You know, we're trying to do that. So I'm optimistic and hopeful that we can do that.
So we sold 49% of our company to Leo Burnett back in 1997. The reason we did that is we wanted to develop a global strategy, and we needed a global media partner to do that. We weren't going to give that away, so we negotiated with Burnett's to buy 49% of our company. Burnett's then in turn sold to Publicis. At that moment we could have withdrawn, that was about 3 years after we did the deal with them. At that moment we could have withdrawn from the arrangement we had Burnett's. We decided we didn't want to because it was working very well. We were working with Starcom and we enjoyed working with them. And so Publicis then inherited 49% of BBH, and that continued for a very long time. Nigel and I, who are the two last remaining founding partners in the agency, had to decide, when we go, how do we preserve BBH? How do we preserve what it stood for, what it stands for? All our advisors said to us, because we had a system of shareholding, that when you left the company you sold your shares back into the company, and that was multiple. There was a standard multiple on this, and it's like 3 times last year's two years' profit. All our advisors say, gentlemen, if you two do that, the day after you leave the company, that will go on the open market, which is in fact one of the things that Leo Burnett did. They did that. And so we were advised, you have to resolve this issue of shareholding and how you're going to, if you want to continue the culture. So we thought and we looked at many options of, should we have a management buyout? Should we do all kinds of things? The best option for us, after a lot of debate, was to extend our deal with Publicis with a contract that allowed us independence within. And that way we took the kind of cash, so to speak, off the table, and that would then preserve, because we would negotiate the best deal for BBH to continue. That was our reason for doing it. Right or wrong, 10 years from now will tell us whether that was right or wrong. I think it was the right thing to do, but we had to take money out of the equation. That's why we did it.